Welcome to Live Action Star Wars Presents Data Link. I'm Ralph.
I'm James.
Was that super loud?
I don't care. I was just jamming out to it. I have missed that theme. I love it. It's great.
We haven't done a Data Link in a long time, and this was
while.
we did Light and Magic for the last 6 weeks, and I wanted to do. We each have one pick before Andor starts, and this is something I've been wanting to do for a long time, and I believe we discussed it on our first Data Link episode.
Yeah, that would make sense.
This gentleman was our guest then. And it's Rick DeMint.
Hey,
hello everyone.
Live from Hawaii.
I want to say,
yes,
I feel like we've been talking about doing this episode like long before we did our first episode where we talked about the Galactic Star Cruiser.
Yeah, we talked about this before you came up with the data link, and then you said, oh,
yeah.
The Portroid Star Wars Star Wars Portroids would fit really well in the data link, where it's not exactly a live action Star Wars, but it sort of is because you're interacting with live action Star Wars people.
It was the most live action Star Wars.
Yeah.
What's good is like also I talked to you. We had a conversation back on my Patreon page, like in 2018, I think.
In my 15th anniversary of Portroids.
Yeah. And that's available to the public. Go to patreon.com/casinoskunk. Listen to that. But the thing is, back then, I only did audio podcasts. So now with live action Star Wars and it being a visual media, and it's like, okay, now we definitely want to do it. And so like since day one. And what's great is in the time that we've talked and on that original data link and talking about doing this episode, you created a Portroids account just for Star Wars.
Yeah, it was sort of inspired by our discussion because what had happened was, I think, like on one of the May 4ths, which I know you think is a fake holiday, but
not my Star Wars Day.
Yeah, Star Wars Day. I just started posting a bunch of my Star Wars Portroids, and I was like, took me almost all day just to kind of like keep putting, and then people were like, stop posting. And I was like, no way. Then I was like, well, it'd be kind of cool to have them all in one place. And then this sort of inspired me to do my sub account. I have the regular Portroids account, which is everything. And then I did the sub account. Actually, I did a sub account for Saturday Night Live. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do Star Wars also. And there are maybe like 200 pictures. I was just surprised because there's so many offshoots.
Yeah.
You have the cartoon series, you have, audio books, like just kind of, and you're like, oh wow, this person did a voice for the radio drama before they were famous, and it's just kind of fun.
Yeah.
I was gonna say you've managed to tie in a lot of people that people wouldn't normally associate with Star Wars in there because Star Wars is this just catch-all that it grabs people, even if it is something really obscure, like as you say, the radio dramas or a random cartoon from the 80s.
Yeah,
right. And then so the thing also was when we were doing this, I was going to go into your Portroids page, which is what now, like almost 20 years.
Yeah. Coming on 19 years. Yeah.
Pictures. And I can't even imagine how many you have in total, but I was going to go in and like pull some out that were Star Wars related. And this just made it easier. When he set up this account, when he set up this account, I'm like, oh man, Rick really wants to be on the show. He's separating them all out for me. And
we talked about it before, but then it was just like, as soon as he did it, it's like, sweet, well, Rick's done the hard work for us.
I'm doing the work for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for those of you that are here, let's say hi. Sarah's here, Stevie's here, Scott D, and Jeremy. Rick is not here today.
What?
Rick usually pop in the chat. And of course, our number one supporter there every single episode, the StreamYard test comment. I love it. No one else gets to see that. Only we see that. So it's been fun to show it. So what we're going to do is, if you don't know what a Portroid is, it's a Polaroid portrait that Rick takes of a person, any person. And then they usually, if you're lucky, they sign the bottom of it. And Rick scans them and posts them. It's like such an easy concept. Like, it's such a cool thing. And I'm surprised. Have you seen anybody like do it since you've?
Yeah, there are a few people. It's kind of interesting because, it's been around forever. Like you'd see it. I mean, kind of, you go into a deli and they're like, "Hey, I've got signed Polaroids on the one." You're like, "Oh, all right," but they're in the picture with them. But so you do see it around some, but I have seen it pop up, since I've been doing it. Like I said, 19, going into my 20th year. But I've seen other people come and start doing the celebrity stuff, and then getting them signed. I'm like, it's just sort of my exact same thing. But
it's your gimmick.
You do see it some. There's some people that kind of come into the world of it and then disappear. And then there's others that kind of do it and they stay with it and they kind of make it their own in a different way. So it's like, all right, we can kind of live in the same.
Do you have much communication with those guys? Like, do you guys like
some
back
of
and
them
forth at all? Yeah, that's
some
cool.
of them I have never communicated with, but others I became friends with, and we're like, "Oh, this is
nice.
great." We kind of do different things. Like one guy out of San Francisco, Polaroid J is his name. Like we met up and kind of talked. He's like, "Oh, I was afraid you're gonna be mad." I was like, "No, this is cool." And like I actually kind of had him cover some red carpets for me out in San Francisco. And so he mostly does music stuff, but it's kind of we collaborated on some things, which is
that's very cool. It's nice. It's a simple concept, but like done very well. And that's it. As I think, as Ralph was saying, it's one of those things that it's the simple ideas like this that sort of stand the test of time. If you stick with it, it's a very, very cool thing. And just having that archive like that you've had for 19 years now is super, super cool. Just to sort of flick through there and go, oh wow, there's this person at this time, and then where you've got a few people more than once on there, it's seeing the difference.
Yeah, one of my rules originally was like one picture and that's it. I'm not going to repeat. And it actually it started biting me a little bit because I was like, oh, I don't like the picture, so I was like, okay, I'm going to take another picture of this person. Well, Ralph didn't like his original portrait, so we kind of met up and did a retake. But but mostly, it's like, okay, the picture's great. I don't need to do it again. But that kind of brings me to my first Star Wars person, which is Mark Hamill.
Do you want to go through it?
Yeah, actually, if you go to it's the very first,
very bottom
on the Star Wars one, so you got to scroll all the way down.
Yeah, I'm gonna scroll all the way down.
Yeah, but so Mark Hamill, I was at Comic-Con. I was doing Portroids like in the press room at Comic-Con. Sorry, guys. There's a lot of pictures.
There's so many. It's great.
That's amazing.
So this was 2010.
Mm-hmm.
This picture.
The classic San Diego arches there. You can tell.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So he was doing the small, in one of the small rooms. He was part of the DC Universe Online panel, and so I attended the panel, and I was like, usually you can kind of catch someone between, like right after you can kind of go up and say, hey, can I get a quick photo?
Yeah, before they're sort of escorted off to the next place that they got to be at. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And because I had a press pass, I was like, okay, this would be easy. But he went out the main door into the hallway. As you can see, there are like, cosplayers behind him, like, Harley Quinn, and just, he was walking down the hallway with just all these like cosplay people following him. And I was like, I got in front of him and I was like, hey, can I get a quick Polaroid? Yeah, of course, boom. And I was like, he signed it as he was walking because he was just going to another venue. But this is, before the relaunch of, the sequel series. And he's kind of just doing Joker stuff at this point.
Yeah. I mean, around 2010, that would have been probably mostly like the video games, I'm guessing. Like, because the series was done like the video games and like the made for TV movies and not the straight to DVD movies and things like that. So, it is a weird sort of point in time for Mark Hamill because. Yeah, as you say, it's even after like 2012 when the announcement of the sale happened, before we got anything new, like it was like he was in build up to Star Wars mode. So yeah, this is great. It's a great time to get.
So at the next year at Comic-Con also, so 2011, I talked my way into some Adult Swim party at some bar in San Diego. I got a press pass. I'm doing interviews with these guys tomorrow, whatever, because I got to be in some of the Adult Swim press rooms at Comic-Con. So I'm at this party. I think it was for the like launch of that show NTSF SD SUV.
Yep.
Paul Scheer show.
Yeah, Paul Scheer show, exactly. So I'm at this party, kind of in the bar, and I'm not a party guy. Like, so I'm just kind of like hanging out by myself. I'm standing by this column in the place, like, in the middle of the room, and I look over, and Mark Hamill's standing right next to me. It's just me and him standing next to in this bar of like weird comedians. I was like, oh, this is like a Star Wars situation. But I didn't ask him for another picture because I had this one. That's just going back to what I was saying.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh, I don't do. I was like, why not? Like, why not get another picture of Mark Hamill? You know, but so it's just kind of, oh, I'm in a kind of a bar situation with Luke Skywalker, you know, and then I've seen him again, you know, years later, like probably 3 or 4 years ago, and you know, he was kind of just avoiding crowd. Like I couldn't get a picture. I was like, now I'm going to get another one. Didn't get a chance, but you know, I think it's just because the Star Wars stuff has jumped up again.
Of course, it makes him sort of infinitely more recognizable to people that don't follow Mark Hamill or Star Wars again.
Yeah.
I think what I like about Portroids the most is it is because it's a Polaroid. It's like you get one shot at it.
Yeah.
And you don't really get a chance. I mean, you can go into Photoshop after you scan it and mess around with stuff, but really, it's kind of just there. It's what it is. It's the moment.
It's the charm. It is the absolute charm of all of it, is the fact that it's so raw. It's some people are posing for them. Some people are not at all. As you said, like, you're getting people as they're coming and going from a lot of places. So it's a quick snap, and that it makes it so much better. I love that.
Yeah, you know, and going back to what you're just saying. So the problem also is, like, if I'm catching a picture outside, either it's going to be too sunny or cold, and like, and the pictures suffer. Or, you know, there was a spell in the middle of where Polaroid stopped making film, and so there's kind of this experimental film made by the Impossible Project. So the quality was just, you know, volatile. You didn't know what you were going to get, and so when you just have, you know, 10 seconds maybe to get a picture, you're like, quick, cover it so it doesn't get light exposed. You know, when you're doing all this stuff to try to protect the image, and then, you know, or someone blinks and you're like, oh no, you know, like, I can't do that. But yeah, it's kind of, it makes it fun, you know. But
how many cameras in the 19 years that you've been doing these, how many cameras do you think you've gone through?
I don't know, maybe 10.
It's pretty good.
You know, I try to just use the same one throughout, but you know, something will break, or I'll like, oh, I'm going to try this version of the camera. But yeah, I think I've probably regularly used 10 different cameras, but you know, every so often I'll bring one out just to like, oh, let's see what this one does. But
you need to get Polaroid like to sponsor you or something, just to keep you in supply of film and things like that.
They've actually done some things with me. Like, cool. I got hired to do Sundance Film Festival, to buy Sundance to come out and cover red carpets. And so I worked with, I contacted Polaroid. It was actually Impossible Project at the time. I said, look, you know, they want me to come out and do this. So would you guys, you know, if they would put your like banner ads and stuff, can we do a partnership? And then they sent me all this free film and all this stuff. And they've done it a few times throughout the years. Like, okay, you're doing this big project. Here's this, help boost the name, you know, and it's like, great. But
that's good that they've sort of looked after you at times like that. That's pretty good.
One of my favorite things was, again, I did not like my first Portroid. I don't know what I was doing in it. I don't know why I decided to do the pose I did, but you had a roll of pink. Yes. You had a roll of Polaroid that came out. It was all pink, and I'm like, and you were going to be in town, and I'm like, please, please bring the pink, because the pink I used for VHS Dude when I started that, and then when I created the Casino Skunk logo, I used that same pink. And it's like become sort of my thing, and it was like, oh my gosh, my new Portroid is much better. I enjoy it much more.
Yeah, I took 2 at the time. Yeah, the pink one and the other. Oh, Carrie Fisher. Yeah, this picture. I think I wrote it in the caption here, but we went to see her do a Broadway show, and then after the security kept, and I think I wrote that right there, but the security said, no photos, like you can't take any pictures. And I was like, okay, I'm here to take a picture. You know, I saw the show.
That's why I just need one picture.
That's why we're here.
as she was walking out, she was signing some playbills, and then Erica made, like a comment to her, like, oh, the show was really great. It was like so great that we could laugh and cry during the show. And she said, oh, and then Carrie responded like, it's, at the time, if you had laughed about this, it would have really hurt my feelings. Like she kind of said, now that we're far apart from, because it was about her family and kind of the dysfunction of it all and kind of the hardship she went through. But so after they had this kind of nice interaction, I was like, oh, they said I couldn't take pictures, but can I do a quick Polaroid? She's like, yeah, sure, go for it. And I was like, great, thanks, snap. And then she signed it for me. So it was just like, all right,
I think that's the thing when you do sort of meet people like that and they're doing a show, it's they have that blanket rule in place, which I think fair play to them because they don't want to be hounded and harassed by people the whole time. Yeah. But you talk to them, you treat them like human beings, like they are, and 9 times out of 10 they're going to be absolutely fine with it.
Right.
I like that. It's good.
Yeah. Who I'm just curious. Who wrote the R2D2?
Oh, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, that was at there was at some, like you go to these conventions, like not like the big ones, not like Comic-Con. This was, like a small convention in Denver called Starland, and it's in a hotel lobby. You know what I mean? Like, but they bring out some names. I think Tim Rose was at that same one. He does, Admiral Akbar and Fallacious Crumb. So I got a press pass for this event because I'd been covering like the Denver Film Festival, and they're like, oh yeah, sure, here's a press pass, just go around and take people's pictures, it's fine, and get their autographs. And I was like, even the pay people, like, yeah, just kind of tell them your press and that we said it's okay. It was like, great, thanks. I don't know, get $40 per person or whatever it was. But this R2D2 was rolling around, so it's like, oh, cool, of course I got to get R2D2's picture. But that's why there's like carpet in the background because it was in a hotel lobby. So yeah,
right.
Just,
it's always, you're always going to get an interesting flaw when you have an R2D2. It's like, where are you? You're going to be able to tell.
Yeah.
Because I've learned when it comes to folks who work at Disney, like the costume characters, they're not really, you can't really give them something to hold other than like an autograph book.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming for this, you couldn't.
I didn't ask. I'm sure they would have, because these characters were amazing. Like this was a Star Cruiser, which we talked about on the first Data Link. But yeah, I just had, I'll quickly tell stories and we could time. There's a lot of time. I was like, what? Am I spending too much? So all these characters were just amazing, and they're so interactive. And I could have been like, hey, would you sign this for me? But I wasn't sure because of what you're saying, Ralph. Like, you go in and some of the characters don't sign things. Like I have a lot of Disney characters autographs on things, but some of them don't. And so I didn't want to have that awkwardness, like I didn't want to say, hey, will you sign? And then be kind of like, I don't know about that. But it's kind of funny because the actors, as you were mentioning, like I've gotten to know them a little bit after the fact. Like I kind of reached out like, oh, I took a picture of you. And then I ran into them in the park when I was there a couple months ago. And just, like, kind of we hung out a little bit. Like,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Here, her name is Megan. Sorry, it's Captain Riola Keevan. Like we just had, great conversation, and the guy who plays Lieutenant Croy and like the one who plays the cruise director, like we kind of just hung out, and it was like, oh, it's really fun to get to know these people, as people, but also just the fact that they're part of the Star Wars world, and all of them are just such huge fans of the Star Wars world, and so they also following me on here, and like, I can't believe I'm like on the same page with Mark Hamill. And,
that's awesome.
Now you've done some if someone doesn't sign it and you hear they're in town or something, you'll try to get it signed after the fact.
If you want to jump go ahead.
Would you mail this to them? Like, would you mail since if you know them and just have them send it back?
That's the thing with these characters. Let's go back just quickly. Like the Disney characters may have like official signatures, and so if you're like, it's tricky. Unless they have one signed, like queued up, it would be hard to just say, sign it.
Because you're doing it sort of with that one, especially like it's in character. It's
But I could ask
it's same with
like,
R2D2.
At this point, because I'm in communication with some of these people, I could just say, "Hey, do you sign these? Would you sign it?" And then I could also just bring it and then meet up, try to meet up with them again.
I feel like if you were to do it in your character on the Galactic Star Cruiser and be like, I have to give this to the Resistance.
That's great. Yeah.
So they know who to contact.
Yeah. I guess I'll go back on.
But I need your authorization. Time to go back. I'm going to bring this up before we head to some of those other ones that you were mentioning getting signed later. This is one of James's favorite people ever.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, Donald Glover.
And like also, dude knows how to pose for a photo, doesn't he?
It's a good one.
Yeah.
I've got a photo with me with him, but all you can see is my hand on his butt where he stage dived off of a tiny little stage and like I was right there, like, propping him up.
Show?
Yeah. It was his first UK show. It was great.
Yeah. So Donald Glover, they were doing a this was at Comic-Con also. Same time I got Mark Hamill, July 2010.
Cool.
So there was a community, like sometimes on the floor, they'll have their cast come out and sign posters, and they're just all lined up. And they told us no photographs, like at the beginning of the line. But
again,
what saved me was Chevy Chase was there, and every single person in line wanted to talk to him, and he was like the second person, right? So it was Joel McHale, Chevy Chase. I didn't even take Chevy's picture because I had already had one. That rule of mine. But because of that, it was just a long gap because everyone was just queued up there. And then so I could just like interact with each person individually after that. So I was like, great, can I get your photo? And they're like, sure.
Amazing. So many of them are now like available that you can use in Star Wars as well.
Yeah, I know. It's like Alison Brie did a voice in Visions, I think. It's like everyone just kind of shows up. But so Donald, I think, again, like going to the next year, they were doing I think 2011 they did a big community panel also, and I was in a press room, but not for their press room, and I was covering, I don't remember what it was, but I was standing there, and they were kind of backstage, and I could hear them talking, and it was funny because Donald was trying to teach, I think it was Gillian Jacobs and Alison Brie, like how to rap. So it was like really he was kind of going into his Childish Gambino stuff, and he was like, oh, it's really funny to kind of overhear like just their kind of personal. I mean, I wasn't eavesdropping so much as like I could just hear it. It's kind of fun that kind of he's kind of having fun with them, with this other aspect of his career.
Really. Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. That's very, very cool. Yeah. I'm gonna guess that you did the Orabesh on this Jawa here.
I did, yeah. I did that. That
very
was
cool. I like it. It's a nice touch.
Yeah, I that was at one of the when the Jawas used to walk around at the launch bay at Disneyland. And it's just like, this is great. Like they literally just wandering around inside. It's like they need to do that at Galaxy's Edge. They need to do that just kind of have characters.
In character, just walking around, little extras. Yeah.
Can we look at the Ian McDermott picture?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I think here I even wrote about Datalink on here because it's just a little story, and I was like, I think this would be good. But
here we are.
Yeah. We went to a Broadway show. I think it was Doubt, and I was waiting at the stage door for Cherry Jones to exit, right? So I could get her picture. And I actually have never gotten her picture because she didn't come out that day. But it was literally just me and Erica standing there. Like no one else was waiting around. And when was this? 2005. Like, so this is like, there's not Star Wars going on at this point.
It's just after Revenge of the Sith.
It's just done.
Yeah, so like the prequels are done, right? The prequels are all done by 2005. Is that right?
Yeah, it was 2005.
Yeah, this is around the DVD release is December.
Yeah. So Ian McDermott comes out the stage door, and I was like, "Oh crap, that's the Emperor," That's awesome. And so I went up. I was like, "Hey, do you mind if I take a picture?" And he kind of looks around. There's no one else there. It's me and Eric. He's like, "Yeah, just walk with me so that." I don't get mobbed, essentially. And I was like, there's no one here. I mean, it's Times Square, but also it's like, half a block off. So there's no one around. And so we're walking. He's like, pretend we're old friends. And I was like, okay, why not? So we're walking down the street,
All right.
chatting. And then we get like maybe a quarter of the block down. He's like, okay, now we can do it. And I was like, all right, dude, fine.
That's amazing.
Kind of like, I felt like I was, Anakin Skywalker walking with.
I was going to say, he starts asking you if you've ever heard the tale of Darth Plagueis the Wise.
Right. Yeah. So, I snapped his picture and he signed it for me, but he was the nicest guy. But he was also just like, I was like,
does he usually get hounded?
It's like, no one's here, sir. Maybe he has an eye for it. Maybe there were some people across the street waiting, but yeah, I just thought it was really funny that
that is great.
He asked for
and he got it to sign it, which is great.
Yeah. I mean, this is going back to what you were saying, Ralph. I didn't even realize I had done this, but he had written to Rick on there, and I edited it out on Photoshop. I was like, oh, I don't need mine. But now I just leave it when people do that. They're like, because they ask your name, they want to write, and I was like, yeah, fine, no big deal. But
what year is that Hayden Christensen just there? Because he looks like a baby.
It's not that long ago, actually.
Oh no, it's not.
2015.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't remember what he was promoting, but he was coming through New York, and he
still looks kind of sad.
Yeah. That's the funny thing. He looks sad in this picture, but he was he was smiley and kind of surprised that people were there to see him. He was on a small show in New York. It's called New York Live, and I think it's only on in New York, and it's on like 11:30 to noon. So it's like a great show for me if I know someone's going to be there to catch them at my lunch hour. Like, oh, great, I can pop by and try to get a picture as these people are coming or going, because they just literally have to walk in or out of the building. It's at Rockefeller Center. And so usually there may be, a couple people waiting, but, he had maybe 10 people, let's say, not that many, but still he was kind of like, oh, great, took pictures with everybody. And, he kind of looks a little sad, as you said in the picture, but he was great. I mean, he was fine.
He seems like a really sweet guy. He seems like he's been very nice and appreciative of everyone that sort of has been nice to him.
Yeah, I think he got slammed so early that it maybe hurt him. But I think now people are like coming around, like, oh yeah, he's great, or like, and with his stint on Obi-Wan, I think like, all right, yeah.
It was like the world was sort of ready for it. It felt like it. Yeah. The kids who grew up watching him have aged up into that point where they now have loud voices.
Yeah.
Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse.
Speaking of which, I have a bit of a plug here on Saturday. I'm going to be guesting on a show called Toy Connections. It's Ken. It's Ken's show. It's a Connections, a different Ken, not Ken Plume. But we're talking about this very thing. We're talking about the prequels in hindsight. So that's going to be live Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific time.
Cool.
I'll have a link. I'll send a link out and stuff. But that reminded me to mention that. I'm excited to talk about that because I, again, am one of those guys who day one in line for the prequels didn't like it. And then now I watch them probably the most of any Star Wars. Because George packed each frame with so much. I mean, God, dude, like we're barely on like page.
I know. I'm like,
yeah.
And we're going. There's so many. I mean, I want to know about everybody.
Yeah, that's it. I think like we could just spend weeks just covering all of them. But I think
I'm gonna click on this one.
Yeah,
because I didn't mention. I did mention signing after.
Yeah,
right? So this is one that was signed after.
This was when they were 2015 December. They're coming to promote Force Awakens, right? So they're relatively unknowns. You know John Boyega from Attack the Block. Like you've seen him, but Daisy Ridley, who's this? So they come around, and sometimes I'll go to. A lot of times I'll go to the morning shows and try to get pictures of people coming and going. And they set up barricades kind of by the stage door. And at this one, they had one on one side and one on the other. John Boyega went to one side, the one I wasn't on, and Daisy went to the other where I was. And I said, oh, could I take your picture? And she said, oh, I don't want a picture of just me. And I said, oh, okay. Well, and so then she didn't let me. She was taking selfies with people. She signed a couple things, but like I didn't have anything for her to sign. So I was like, oh, okay, well, that's no good. And I'd missed John going in because he went to the other side. And then I was like, sometimes they do promos right at the side door. They'll come outside, do a quick promo, and you can kind of catch them there while they're waiting for the cameras to come on. So I did that. No one else, I just went around. They had some stormtroopers out there. Just like, I'm on the show, be next to a stormtrooper. And I was like, hey, John, can I get a picture? He turned and I was like, oh, Daisy too. And because I knew she didn't want to be in a picture by herself. So I was like, I'm going to catch them both together. So they both turned, snapped the shots, and R2-D2's in the background. You might see. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's like he was kind of in the doorway, and I was like, this is awesome. But they literally had to turn around and do the promo, and then they went inside. So I didn't get him to sign it. So years later, John came back to promote, I think, Detroit, that movie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I went to say, he was also at Good Morning America, and he was coming around signing some autographs for some things. He signed on the picture. I'm like, all right, fine, no big deal. And then I was like, all right, now I just need to get, so he's kind of the darker blue. And then I was like, okay, now I need to get Daisy to sign it. So she came around for, it must have been, was she on Murder on the Orient Express?
Yeah, I was going to say Murder.
So
Yeah.
Around for that. And again, she was doing just photos with people. And so, but luckily I held the picture out and she saw it and she signed, but she also signed over the picture over John's signature. I was like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
I didn't realize this was 2 signatures.
Yeah, it's 2 signatures.
It was only when you said the 2 different color blues. Yeah.
So, but, and then I saw John Boyega a couple weeks ago because he was coming around promoting, what's it called? Breaking. He was coming around with that new movie, Breaking. And so I was shocked because there were no autograph hunters out there for him. I get to know all the autograph hunters just because, I'm out in the world where they are. And so I was like, why isn't anyone around? And so, and people were like, oh, he doesn't sign for people. He doesn't sign autographs, he's tough about it. But on this particular trip, he was taking selfies with everyone. So I was like, great. I stepped up and I was like, can I get a photo? He was like, yeah. He did kind of a fun pose. And I was like, oh, you mind signing? He's like, sure. He signed right over the main photo.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, you signed over. He's like, oh, well, I was like, fine, dude.
Wow.
But luckily when it was developing, I saw that his face was still unmarked. He didn't write over it because I was going to just be like, can we do another one? But I was like, nope, don't need to. But
have you had to do is it awkward asking to do a redo?
Yeah. And sometimes they realize what they did. I think it was, what's her name? Jennifer Coolidge. She kind of, I think she signed over one of them, right across real big. And then I was like, she's like, oh no, what is, she's like, take another one, take another. I was like, all right, fine. What do I care? Oh, there's so many pictures.
There's so many. We're
there's so many.
barely scratched the.
I know.
I think we should sort of scan through slowly so that we can get a look at all of them. But then if there's any that in particular that you've got a good story for, I think they're the ones that we definitely need to stop on. But
I mean,
we got to highlight Connor, of course.
Donald Gleason, let me just quickly stop there for Hux. Just he was another person that's like, you have to be in the picture with me. I was like, okay, I guess, it's hard to do. So I'm holding my camera out and I don't realize what he's doing, that he's made this face until it developed. And I was like, oh, that's really fun. That's
great. Kind of great.
Yeah.
You guys look like best friends.
Yeah, we are. We're best friends.
I mean, the thing is, so the thing with Portroids is
brother.
Yeah.
The sensible older brother.
There's so many. There's so many. You have presidents.
Yeah.
You have I don't know. It like I said, it runs the gamuts from presidents to me. That's everybody and everybody in between. Yeah, I think that's my pink one, right? It better be my pink one.
It is your pink one because I didn't do the one you don't like. So yeah, I think and
oh my god, look
James,
at all these
you mentioned
people
it on the last episode. If you and I had met up, I would have taken your picture and I'll put
it just happened that I was at work that day when you were down nearer to me.
I mean, everyone here is amazing, and we have Andor coming up next week. I'm excited to see Diego Luna.
2 weeks.
Yeah. And
2 weeks. 2 weeks. Yeah.
Even though I love that shot of him, he was around recently to promote Andor, and I was like, I'm gonna take another picture. I was there to catch pictures of the reservation dogs people, but he was right there, so I was like, yes, I'll definitely take a picture. Diego Luna again. Oh, now you have a story that you've talked about.
I do. Yeah, I should have grabbed it. I've got it's the flight manifest that he signed, not the manifest, not the actual like passenger manifest, but like all the supplies. Because my stepdad was a pilot for British Airways at the time.
Yeah,
and he bumped Sam Jackson up from business to first class because I'd already been sort of like snuck into first class.
Yeah,
and he bumped him up so that I could sit near him, and I was like,
so great.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, he was arriving for the Hamilton opening night for this, and I was kind of just there, kind of near the press people. Yeah, and I saw him, like, he looked over for the camera, but he didn't sign that time. I saw him again I've tried multiple times to get him to sign this. And he'll be signing autographs, but like he's like, I don't want to do any photos, and people will be like jumping in and he's like, nope, forget, and they'll walk.
It sort of shuts it down for everyone at that point, doesn't it? Yeah.
But he's doing a Broadway show coming up, so I'm like, oh, there's might be an opportunity for me to do that. And Kellyanne Tran, Rose Tico, like, she snuck out a back door at Good Morning America, but like I was like walking by, and I was like, hey, her car's out here. And so I was like, hey, can I get a, like, literally, like,
her car?
I was just leaving. And we didn't even talk about Star Wars. We talked about Comedy Bang Bang because she was on like on that. So it's just like, it was fun to kind of chat with people. But yeah, she was really nice.
That's cool.
Ah, man, so many. I mean, look at these guys. Like all these guys.
That's okay. 2012. Yeah.
Yeah, Ewan. And again, he's someone that doesn't like autograph hunters and stuff like that. But he was like, oh, yeah, I have another picture of him that I got at Sundance. And I only got it because I knew, and I think I posted it separately, but I only got it because I knew someone that used to work at the Denver Film Festival. I was like, hey, do you need Ewan's picture? I was like, yeah. And so like she made sure that I got it.
That's cool. That's nice.
Ralph, we have to talk about Ahmed Best. Oh, there's that Ewan picture I was talking about.
Oh yeah,
is this
exactly the same pose?
This day, right?
Yeah, you were there. That's what I mentioned. This was backstage at Podcastathon. Ralph was attending, and like,
as your guest.
Yeah, you were my guest, but you were in the audience for some of the show, and then you came back and hung out with me. But like, I didn't know Ahmed was on the show when Ralph was going to come by, and then Ralph's like, oh, he was hanging out with me backstage a little bit while I was doing pictures. And it was just like, oh, this is a great opportunity. Like I took a picture with Ralph with Ahmed Best also, but
and with Conan. If you ever see a picture with me with Conan and me with Ahmed Best, it was during this day. I had it was the day after I was in LA for a bachelor party, and this was the next morning. And I was just like, I gotta get there. I gotta get there. Such a great dude.
Yeah, he was so cool, so nice, and we chatted with him for a while, like, because he was working at that time on his one-man show, which he hasn't really done, but it was about kind of what happened to him with Jar Jar Binks and how he was like near suicide just because of the fan reaction, or not fan, the hater reaction,
the backlash,
But he was talking, kind of chatting with us backstage about it, and it was like really great. And Frank Oz was supposed to direct that show, which I then saw Ahmed and Frank years later. Actually, it couldn't have been years. No, it must have been later that same year, because we're 2019, then everything shut down. But I think it was probably like maybe 6-7 months later. Frank's kid was his son Cooper was in a movie that Frank was doing a Q&A after, like, of his son and the director. And so Ahmed had showed up with him. So they were there at this thing. So when they came in, it was like, because I was attending the screening, like, I had Frank sign a picture that he hadn't signed for me yet. I don't think okay. I'm conscious of your time.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. So he'd come with Frank, but like when he arrived, there were like a couple autograph people there. And then I attended the show, another friend of mine attended the show, watched the movie, watched the Q&A. When we went back in the lobby, it was packed. Like, there were 100 people in this lobby, like, trying to get Frank Oz autographs. And it's just like, wow, like, or photos with him, everyone heard he was there and came. But and I don't think anyone realized Ahmed Best was there because like he just walked out and no one's like, hey, wait a minute, like yeah, like you signed my Star Wars thing. Like I think just people didn't realize it was him, so it's kind of funny that
there he is.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
So
great.
Frank, I think I can rotate with the stories, but
Frank did he mess up his own autograph?
Yes, he did. Am I allowed to swear on this?
Yeah.
You guys...
Yeah, of course.
Okay. I don't know, but just because it relates to this story. So Frank Oz was number one on my Portroid wish list forever. Like Muppets, Yoda, like all his movies, like everything. It was like this guy has done everything that means something to me. You know what I mean? So, so he was number one. George Lucas is number one currently, and he has been like. And I just have never seen him. I almost did recently because he did an event at MoMA, but I saw his wife, but I didn't see him, Well, are
you going to be in town for the opening of his museum?
I might need to. But yeah, he's curmudgeonly. Like he yells at autograph hunters like, you're not even a fan. It's like, we're all a fan,
I am. Yeah, I promise.
Yeah. I mean, you guys, I don't know if you've watched that Vice series yet, but it's a little bit.
No, I haven't.
It paints him in a darker light because it's
Vice likes to do that.
Yeah, it's mostly about how great Marsha Lucas is, because she's interviewed in it and like what she did to make those movies what they are. No spoilers, but so anyway, go back to Frank. So Frank Oz was directing this off-Broadway show called In and of Itself, and I'd heard that he was going to be doing it. So like, oh, we need to go see that. Check it out. But I was walking to the train station after work, and I was like, I'm going to take the longer walk, which is just like down the street to Union Square from where I work. And as I'm going by, I see Frank sitting in a restaurant, like in the window of a restaurant with the guy, this Derek Delgadio, who he's doing a show with. And I was like, oh my God, that's Frank Oz. And I was like, so I went out and I like stopped on the corner and I was like, do I go back? Probably shouldn't. Like the guy's eating, like leave him alone. And so I was like, all right, I just go back in bed. But then they walked out and they like started walking toward me. I was like, oh, well, shit, here we go. Like I'm just going to ask him. So I was like, hey, sorry to bother you, Frank, but like I'm a big fan. Could I take a photo? And he's like, oh, yeah, sure. And he's like, but you got to get Derek's picture too, because he's the one in the show. I was like, yeah, of course. No problem. No big deal. So I take Frank's picture here just outside Union Square. And I was like, hey, would you mind signing it for me? He's like, yeah, sure. What's your name? Because he wants to sign names. So he starts signing his name, but he messes it up. And he's like, oh, fuck. And he's like, fuck, it's like, and so he scratches out and writes mistake on there. And it's like, all right, well, fine, and then
that's amazing.
And then we end up talking for a little bit. Go ahead.
So you have your camera on you at all time?
Yeah. I have like a messenger bag that has my camera with everywhere, like just in case. Because situations like this, I ran into him on the street not knowing I would see him. I thought, okay, maybe I'll see the show and I'll try to catch him like in early previews because usually the director's there. But it's going to be tricky, because other people will be doing the same thing. But yeah, here he is on the street. So it's like, and we start chatting. He's like, you got to come to the show. Please promise me you're going to get a ticket. And I was like, yeah, I'll get a ticket. No problem. We went to like a first or second preview and Frank's sitting in the audience, and I was like, and so he's sitting like right behind us in the audience. So when the show ends, we're blown away by the show. We saw it 10 times ultimately because it was so amazing. Wow. We're in the movie version of the show, like because they filmed it and we're like in the audience, like, so it's kind of fun, but it's so,
Did you turn around and tell him I told you I was going to come?
Yeah, no, after the show,
like I kept my promise.
Yeah. After the show, I turned around and I was like, oh, Frank, I met you on the street the other day and took a Polaroid. He's like, oh, you came. I'm so happy you came. And I was like, yeah, this is my wife. I introduced him to Erica, and then we kind of chatted a little bit. I was like, the show's so amazing, so great. He's like, oh, thank you so much. Like I said, over the next year and a half, we saw this show 10 times, which is just nuts. But at the same time, it was like, so like every time we got something new from it, and we became like sort of friends with the guy who's in it. But as a result, like I ran into Frank, like there were times where I hid from Frank Oz because I didn't want him to think I was stalking him. Like someone I had never seen before, suddenly I'm seeing everywhere. Like I'll be out and I see Frank like at a place, and I was like, oh, gee, Frank, like he's gonna think I came here because he's here. Like I didn't know. It's like it's weird, and but so ultimately, like during the run of the show, I probably saw him and talked to him a couple times, and then I took a picture of him with Derek Delgadio. But Frank wasn't signing autographs at the time. He's like, no, I'm not signing out, because there were a bunch of Star Wars people out there wanting autographs. But he was doing they were doing kind of an interview thing together. But I was able to get a picture of them together. So fast forward to the final show, I did kind of I put together a magic trick. The show's about illusion and all this stuff, but I did a magic trick where I took a Polaroid of Frank, and what came out of the camera was like a picture of him with all the stuff that he had created behind him, like, you know, the different Muppets and the different movies and all this stuff. And so he's looking at it, he's like, holy shit, I gotta my niece knew what I was doing, so she filmed it. It was at the after party of this thing, or like right after the show. And
that's on your regular Portroids page?
Yeah, I think that one's on my regular Portrait page. But like
that video,
he was like, that's amazing. And so a year later, at this event where his son's in the movie, I brought that picture because I was like, I'm gonna just see if he'll sign it, you know, like. And I was like, hey, Frank, would you sign it? She's like, you're the guy, you're the Polaroid guy. He gives me this big hug. He's like, I need to know how you did it. And I was like, I can't, it's magic. I can't tell you, know, like, because you ruin that magic, and then Frank Oz doesn't give you a hug again. You know, like he's like, okay, it's fun. Like, so it's like, this is great, you know. And so then we also went to the premiere of the film, the filmed version, and Frank's like, hey, you're everywhere. Like, he's like, where's your wife?
I was starting to notice.
Yeah, no, but in like a good way. He's like, oh, you come to all of our stuff. But then like my wife, Erica, was talking to his wife a lot, and he was like, they kind of hit it off, and he's like, where's your wife? You know, and I was like looking around. So it's like, great, you know, like this guy has been a hero of mine my whole life. It's like it's just fun, you know. It's like
now it's someone that
restraining order.
No, like he'll recognize you when you're there at the same time, sort of thing. That's lovely.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
Oh my gosh, I can't even like. So I saw Harrison Ford earlier, and here's James Earl Jones, both not signing.
Yeah, Harrison Ford. That was a sneak picture, because
I was gonna say that looks like you sort of had to.
He was doing press the day before, and it was a horde of people like trying to get autographs. Right. And I have my camera set up, and he's right in front of me. And I was like, "Can I take a picture?" And I'm ready to snap it, because usually they're like, "Yeah, sure." And he said, "No." And I was like, "Oh," and like it threw me off. And I was like, "Okay," and I didn't. I should have, because he's like looking straight at the camera. And so the next day he was doing David Letterman or something. So he's crossing the street. I was like, fuck it, I'm taking the picture. And I just snapped the shot. And he comes over, he signs up, but I couldn't get anywhere near him to get it. James Earl Jones was doing a Broadway show, and he came out, and it was like just having conversations with people. And he's like, hey, do you have anything you want to ask me? Like, he's going in this picture, he's going to shake my hand. And I was like, can I take your picture? He's like, oh, and then I just snapped it. And then, but like, he wasn't signing autographs, but like, he just stood out there and chatted with everybody after the show, but he wasn't like doing selfies or signing autographs, but he'd just come out and talk to people. But I was like, that's James Earl Jones. I'm going to take this picture, you know?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, you're not going to miss that one, definitely.
Yeah.
Just above that, we got Ron Howard, who looks exactly the same in every still that you ever see of Ron Howard.
Yeah.
I swear, like, he might not have a real face. I mean, you're the one who's going to be able to prove that, but otherwise that is the exact Ron Howard face that you just see everywhere.
He and Bryce, who's right next to him, are like the nicest people in the world. Like, she stood out here as long as anyone. Yeah.
That's probably me.
Yeah.
I think it was. But I stand by it. I agree. You should.
You know, she's, as you know, she's an amazing director on these shows, on Mandalorian and all that. And I agree with you. She should have her own show film. But yeah, she just stands out there and like friendliest person in the world. And nice. Ron too. He's just like, hey, you know, whatever. During COVID, he kind of wasn't doing that, but at the same time, you know.
I was going to ask. You mentioned like obviously 2020, everything shut down. You're New York based in general, aren't you? So. Yeah. a lot of these guys you're getting coming to and from other press events.
Right.
Like, what was that like for that sort of year and a half, or I mean, still going on really, but like, like, how has it been? How's it? I mean, everything slowed down, I guess.
Yeah,
I know you've got some with masks, haven't you? So
this picture will answer that. This was March 12th, 2020.
There we go. Yeah,
it was when they said, "Hey, we're shutting everything down." Yeah. That nose and slight face you see in the background is Anthony Daniels.
Okay. So, yep.
I had seen him earlier the same day. It was just me and one other guy. He was coming into the Today Show or something. I was like, "Hey, can I get a photo?" He's like, "Oh, we got to go in." But like as he was walking away, I was telling him how much I liked him in Rise of Skywalker, and he's like, "Oh, thank you." Like he was like really nice and had a nice conversation. Yeah. And then, but he's like, "Oh, I can't." Like, and then, but I was like, if I had just got in front of him, I could have taken a picture. Mm. And then I had heard from some other people like, "Oh, he was signing autographs at the View later." I was like, "Oh, the View's a weird time for me, so I can't get there for work stuff. I have to work, I have a job." But so I heard that he went over to Sirius XM, and I could catch him at my lunch hour. So I was like, "Great." But literally, like in that window between the View and him leaving Sirius is when they're saying, "We got to shut down the world." Like we can't do this. And so he's walking out. I was just like, I got in front of him. I was like, "Can I get a picture?" He's like, "Oh yeah." Like he was letting me take a picture. His publicist like stepped in, as you can see, he's like stepped in front of me, like blocking.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, I got the edge of his face." Like I never even scanned this picture. I just took a photo of it because I was just like, "Well, that's not really a picture, but you can sort of see him." So I was like, "I'm leaving."
It tells a story though.
Yeah, it
really does.
Going back to your question, James, it was just shut down. Nothing.
Yeah.
And then you would every so often go out and like people come out, you get a picture of them in a mask. You're like, fine. Like I have pictures of people in a mask, sunglasses, and a hat. You're like, who is that? Like,
it could be anyone. Yeah.
I was like,
it's Nicolas Cage.
Yeah. But I mean, as you said, it tells a story. It is, that's the time. Yeah, and then we get
this is
like
probably before
about, like, voice
Taika
actors.
was involved.
Oh yeah, so I got this picture here.
2010.
I mean, I'm on vacation right now, but I took this picture in Maui. He was promoting one of his films at the Maui Film Festival, and people didn't really know who he was at the time. This is what 2010.
Sort of been like what Eagle versus Shark, maybe around then.
No, I think this was maybe what was that movie? Boy.
But Boy's one of his earlier ones that I've not seen. Yeah,
like so he was doing something, and he and you highlighted it there. Like I was like, "Hey, can I get your picture?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." And he like sat. He's like, "Let me do that." Like he sat on the ground, cross-legged for the photo, and I snapped it and he signed it. And then as it's highlighted, like he used this picture as his like avatar for social media for years.
That's amazing. Like, so did he take a picture of it, like what, on his phone? No,
I scanned it and tagged him in it, and then he just grabbed it from there. Yeah,
that's cool.
But and then now he's so huge that
I
got another picture
most
of him, but
likely the director of the next Star Wars film.
Yeah,
I think it's all but confirmed that his is coming next.
Yeah, didn't he ask Natalie Portman to be in it? And she's like, "I've been in Star Wars."
Yeah, yeah.
That sounds.
I don't know if that was a bit. I don't know if it was a bit or.
Oh, hey, there we go, Ralph.
Who's that guy?
With this pink Portroid, I was so happy.
Yeah,
I wish I wasn't wearing my work outfit because that hat is awful.
You can't tell. It just looks like a hat.
I'll Photoshop it out. Yeah,
just crop my head. I mean, there's. I have a feeling that this is going to be part one of many.
I am happy to do this again. Definitely.
Yeah, I didn't realize I had so many stories to tell, but like, Michael Giacchino, your buddy there. I ran into him just in Disney parks. He was doing a talk for some like Pixar weekend, and then I just ran into him like outside Space Mountain. And cool. Like, "Hey, gotta get your pictures?" Yeah, of course. He was with like a guide being walked around, but it was just like super nice.
I mean, geez Louise, like this is look at the gamut of these people here. You have James Bond, Academy Award-winning composer, Gorley, which is awesome. Lin-Manuel Miranda, like it's
he's close to having an EGOT at this point, isn't he, Lin? Like
I think he's just waiting for that Oscar.
Yeah.
He'll get one.
He's writing songs for every movie now.
Exactly, he's shooting for it, definitely.
Yeah.
Matt Gorley in here as a.
Yeah, because his name is used in one of the books, so I was just like, all right, he's canon in a way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I added Conan
Conan
in
is
here too.
awesome.
They were talking about on the Conan podcast that he's like that.
Conan's
Got a
canon.
planet, hasn't? Yeah,
Officially named one of the characters after Conan. So it's like,
Mahdi, Admiral Mahdi's first name is Conan.
yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. After the fact, it was retconned.
Yeah,
on Conan's show.
Yeah,
of course.
This is
Billy D looking extremely cool there.
No, it's not Billy D. That's
Is it not Billy D?
No, it's
that's not.
It's Carl Weathers.
Carl Weathers.
Oh, okay, of course, yeah.
I tried to get Billy D's picture when he was doing Dancing with the Stars, but like he was like I couldn't like he just walked around people, not like he didn't walk to where people were asked for autographs. He kind of just went straight to cars. So I was just like, all right, I'm not gonna.
Seth Green was behind me in line at a Subway once. That was that was at Star Wars Celebration. That was in LA actually. That was.
I was going to say that sounds like a con story.
That was 2000 and what was the LA one? That would have been 2007. Yeah, I was. There was a Subway opposite my hotel, and I just wanted a sandwich. So Seth Green got in line behind me. I think he was there to promote the. It would have been the Robot Chicken special. I think possibly the first one of them anyway.
And right above Seth is my friend Aaron, who's in the chat. I see. He also does a Star Wars podcast called. He's part of a Dad Wars podcast. So
awesome.
From there. So there you go, Aaron. I see you in the chat. Minimum wage entertainment.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go ahead because I'm going to stick a pin in this because James has to go. And we're not even halfway through. If you look at the thing, we're definitely going to come back and do this again.
Absolutely.
I want to talk about this one because this cracks me up. This story.
I don't know the story, but I mean, it has a great face.
So I have a picture of Peter Serafinowicz in this exact same position with the exact same background. And as you can see by my comment, saying that I have a picture with him in the same backdrop where we in line together. So I'm like, where's that picture? So I went through my Instagram feed, went back how many years? 12 years.
12
years.
Found my picture. And then underneath is a comment where I said at Portroids, hey Rick, I was in the same line as you, completely forgetting that I'd already mentioned this comment 12 years prior. But me and Rick in the same line for the Look Around You panel. They did an autograph signing on the convention floor, and I'm like, I need to get a picture for Stevie because my Stevie loves my wife loves Peter Serafinowicz, and so I had to take a picture. And I told him my wife loves you, and he sent me a picture like this for her. So somewhere deep in the Casino Skunk Instagram feed is this very same backdrop, and of course he was Darth Maul in episode 1,
the original voice.
Yeah, and then I think space happened, and then that was the end of
space. Season 1 of space. Season 1 of space had already happened. Season 2 came out after episode 1. But yeah, no, that's not the end of Peter Serafinowicz. He's still around. Like, just come over here and put on the TV. You're gonna find him. Just flick through some channels. He's always
I mean, as far as Star Wars goes.
Oh right, as far as
now it's Sam. Now it's Sam.
Sam Whitworth.
So I like this one because I know exactly the time and place this was taken. Like, there's not a lot of portraits where me and Rick overlap.
I mean, there's the ones of you.
There's the ones of me.
That's a major overlap.
When I first met Rick was at the Jay and Jack finale event at the Orpheum in Los Angeles, and I met Rick. You must have had a press pass or something.
I did,
because you were down in the special.
I was down in the special
party
area. Yeah. I had a press pass that I'd gone through. They had a partner, like a global cash card partner or something like that. And my day job is in finance. And so had been working kind of with that group, talking with them. Anyway, it's like, I think I'm going to be at that same event. I was hoping to get, and the guy got me a press pass essentially. And I was like, great, this is awesome. I got to be in the press room.
And you got to meet me. You were so excited. You took a picture.
I was already a fan from Dharma Lars. I was like,
and then I did this. For some reason, I took a picture like this, and I fucking hated it. For years, I hated it. I want it to be stricken from the record. You're like, it's not that bad, and I'm like, it's kind of dumb. And I did my signature, and I did the Darmalar's like little sad, like grumpy face, and I was just like, I really don't. I wish I had a second go at that, and I did. I got a second go.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen each other a bunch of times between there, but you finally said, "Let's do another portrait while we're doing this." I was like, "All right, no problem."
Yeah, that's very cool. I hate to rush this, but I'm glad that we're going to come back and do it again because there's so many more, and your stories, like the photos on their own, are great, but it's hearing the stories behind them that I'm really enjoying. Like it's just digging into them. It's amazing. You've definitely carried this episode, Rick. So thank you very much for coming along. I'm going to leave you guys to wrap up if that's okay. But before we go,
it's totally fine.
We've got to.
Oh, your pick.
We've got my pick. I forgot that I had a pick, so I've scrambled and I've had a look through our list. We haven't gone back to the list in a long time, and I've decided I've really enjoyed this break, and not having to do any homework was really nice this week. So I'm only going to do, I think it's like 10-15 minutes, if that. It's a video. It should be available on YouTube. I'm sure it's still there somewhere. We talked about it a few times when we were covering Obi-Wan Kenobi and at different points. It's the only fan film that we're probably ever going to cover on this, but it's sort of the OG, as far as I'm aware. We're going to cover Troops. Because
I've never seen Troops.
You've never seen Troops? Okay. Troops is a parody of Cops, but in Star Wars. That's the elevator pitch for it. It's really fun. Well, it's been probably 20 years since I've seen it, but it's a lot of fun. If it holds up. But we get an alternate take on Owen and Beru, which is nice. So that's going to be next week. It's Troops. We'll post a link to it on all the socials and stuff that you can find down there somewhere. But I'm going to leave you guys to wrap up. Rick, thank you for coming. Enjoy the rest of your vacation. Enjoy, and hopefully I'll be able to get a Portroid on there somewhere as well at some point.
Oh yeah, we'll
safe travels. Safe travels. Don't drive safe.
Yeah, will do. Thank you very much, guys.
All right.
I'll see you next week.
See ya. Boop. When he said old school, I thought he was going to say Hardware Wars, and I was getting really excited. But I've never seen Troops. I remember I was in line for like Phantom Menace, I think, which I don't know. Someone was watching Troops somehow, and I don't think it was a phone. Maybe they brought a little portable TV with them.
Yeah, I would say back then.
Yeah, but I remember seeing Troops. I'm like, that's not real Star Wars. So I'll finally watch. Finally watch Troops. Yeah. Listen, we are definitely going to revisit because we barely hit the tip of the iceberg, and there was even like people I passed by that I really would have liked to hear stories from. But I mean, you've been doing this so long. Let folks know where they could find you.
So they
can see the rest.
The original is my website, portroids.com, but now it's essentially just all at Portroids on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I have a Facebook page that's not updated because it just no one goes there. And then also at sw.portroids, which is the Star Wars related ones, but everything's on the main page. But if you're looking for Star Wars content, then you're going to find it on sw.portroids. But yeah, that's where I can be found mostly.
I absolutely love it. I love it's always fun to see one pop up in my feed. And it's always, for some reason, for me, when I see one that pops up and it doesn't have an autograph, it kind of bums me out. It's always me. It's always me. Yeah, it's always me being a cynic. Like I'm afraid to ask why it's not signed.
Yeah.
But me being the cynic, I'm always like, oh, that person's probably just a big jerk.
Yeah, it's not usually that. It's usually that they were like, I snapped a shot as they were getting into a car, or as they were kind of being pulled away for something, or I was like taking 5 pictures at once, and didn't get back to get the autograph after it came out, and I was trying to get the next shot. Some people, very few, are like, I don't sign autographs. And you're like, okay. Or I'm not signing autographs now. And you're like, all right, I'll catch you in 5 years when you are, Right. But
you should tell them that. It's going to get signed
with me when I see you again. So
yeah, it's going to get signed. Like, do you try to like not make it seem like you're selling it. Like
Yeah.
I tend to think that they don't want to sign autographs because they think people are going to go just make money off of it.
It's tricky. There are some people that think that, and some are just fine with it. Like, who cares? But they'll ask. Sometimes they're like, "Well, what are you going to sell this for?" It's like, "No, this is for my collection. I have this." Or they'll ask, "What's this for?" Or the publicist will step up. "What's this for?" You're like, "I have a website. I post Polaroid portraits of people, their work that I admire. I use it to promote their stuff whenever something new is coming out." But yeah, it's tricky because you also like, I want to take this picture because I'm a fan, and I want it for me. But yeah, a lot of people think, oh, it's just, another sales. And again, like I said, I've gotten to know a lot of the autograph guys, and it's like, so what if they're selling? They're selling to a fan, like they're making money, they're making a living. If someone wants it, or a collector, it's like they're doing the work that someone else isn't willing to do, and all you're doing is writing your name down. Like, again, if you're mobbed 100% of the time, I can understand why you get annoyed with it. Like Brian Cranston's like, I don't sign autographs anymore at all. He kind of got over it, and then he'll take pictures with every single person who wants to, but like, he's not signing autographs. Not that he's Star Wars, but I'm just saying, like, as an example of someone who doesn't do it anymore, it's just like, it got to be too much. Or actually, Frank Oz, he would sign anything except Star Wars stuff. And he's just like, he stopped signing Star Wars stuff. And you're like, oh, that's too bad for people that are like fans and major collectors of their own thing that want it signed. But he's just like, he got it in his head that it was like, oh, people are taking advantage of fans that, and charging them too much money for these. It's like, well, then offer it up on your website. Like, I'll mail me something to get signed, and I'll sign it, and I'll personalize it. I'll write your name, like a lot of people they want to know my name so that they make sure I'm not selling it. And it's like, right.
And I want to say the only money you've made off Portroids was for charity events.
Yeah.
Like Partcastathon and stuff.
Like we talked about Partcastathon. Yeah. I shoot pictures backstage for them, and then they auction them off for Smile Train. So, over the, how many of those have there been? I don't know. It's been over 10 years, I think. I think 2010 was the first one. And, like my contributions have brought in like $25,000 for the charity, just taking pictures, and then people buying them, because they want pictures. And those are the only ones I've ever sold. I've only ever sold for charity. So.
And how many total Portroids are in your collection, do you think?
I'm getting,
because just on your Star Wars right now, is your Star Wars now caught up? Your Star Wars
think
Instagram?
So, unless I find some weird thing that I hadn't done before, like hadn't tracked. I think I have like 200 something Star Wars ones, but
218
5,000.
Yeah.
So
they're all cataloged.
Sort of. I have like a stack. If I was at home right now, I'd show you the big stack that's sitting on my desk, like that I still need to catalog. But I have like a library card catalog that has them all in there. But I'm also trying to like put them all in individual sleeves and label them. But with 5,000, it's a lot of work, So as I'm doing it, I'm trying to document like, okay, this one is, I need to update my website because it's only in one place and it needs to be in these 4 places, But yeah, it's
like, I wonder, like, because I think they're amazing. Like signing mine and handing it to you, and you going through the process of putting it away in your bag and making sure everything's turned out good and stuff. Yeah. It's crazy to think of all the people you've done this with, and like your Instagram page at Portroids and the Star Wars and the SNL one, like they're great, but I feel like it's such they're all one of a kind.
Yeah.
And there's not really copies. There's scans of it, and you could probably have like digital copies, but just like seeing them in person, I feel like would be a great, like, some sort of gallery. I don't know if you could do a gallery of just Polaroids, but at the same time, it's almost like such a cool, literally snapshots of different places, different times. They're really this unique. No one else can take this exact same picture.
Yeah, it's done.
And it's a time capsule.
Yeah, I have had a gallery show before. Impossible Project that kind of took over from Polaroid had their own gallery in New York. It was a shop, but they also had kind of like an art wall, essentially a gallery wall, and they did a show where they kind of blew up like 5 of them, like larger, and then just framed a bunch of them and put them all around the room. So that ran for 11 weeks. It was supposed to be 3 weeks, and they kept extending. So I was like, yes, it's great.
I probably knew about this. I'm sure I did. I forget about stuff.
2012. It's 10 years ago, or something. No, maybe I don't remember what year.
Because I forgot about our conversation that we already had about Peter Serafinowicz. So I just I mean, it's a perfect thing. It's like, this is the snapshot. This is the one moment in time. And this is the person's signature to back up that this one moment happened.
Yeah.
Like, it just I absolutely love Portroids. I think Portroids is great. I think everybody should follow, because even if you're not into Star Wars, I don't know why you're watching this, but even if you're not into Star Wars, the regular @Portroids account has literally everybody, like everybody you can think of. I'm sure there's a couple where you're like, man, I wish I could get that, but and even if they're not signed, you have like Harrison Ford and James Earl Jones.
And I'll try until I don't have a chance anymore,
Yeah. Anything else you want to bring up before we head off? Just follow.
Yeah, just I'm looking forward to Andor also, in your coverage of it. It's going to be good.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting because all these shows coming out. Going back to what you're saying, like, my account currently is like, as I discovered, I had a Stormtrooper picture I hadn't posted, so I posted it, like a couple days ago. I was like, I never posted that one, but as these new shows come out, it's like, I'm going to. There may be people I have pictures of from 10 years ago that are now going to show up in these shows, Yeah. And so it's like I can keep adding to the library, but also as they come around and do press for it. Like I got Moses Ingram came around for Obi-Wan Kenobi. She's the was third sister. Is that her
third sister
name? One of the I can't remember.
Reva.
Reva, yeah. But she only did the Daily Show, and I was looking at lists of like who's, and I was like, why is she only doing one show in New York? I was like, it must be remote. But I was like, I'm going out just in case, like, and she's there, and it's like, great. And I had her. We can talk about this if we do part 2.
We're gonna do part 2.
We're gonna do
part 2 for sure.
I had her queued up like perfect, like lighting and everything. Like, though I'm shooting black and white pictures, but still like. And then security like whisked her around, like stopped me from taking the picture. And then there was like sun directly behind her. I was like, oh well, fine. But I took it at the Daily Show, and there's like, you can see Daily Show in the background. But I like when it doesn't identify the location, when it doesn't say Daily Show in the background or whatever. But sometimes that's fun because then you're like, hey, time and place, like you said. She was super nice, and just like you've talked about before, just the hate that sometimes comes around. Just like so toxic,
unwarranted, and who cares? It's the thing with Ahmed Best, and Hayden Christensen. Like, why it whoever's doing it just makes them look like a jerk.
Yeah,
and you don't want me to look like a jerk.
And I know James isn't here, but don't give in to hate.
Right. You want to do that? You want to do that for him?
Sure, I'll take.
Let me just make sure. I'm going to pop up the banner so that everybody already knows. Because the thing is, this is data link, so it's only going to be on YouTube. So
yeah, sure.
But our socials are down there if you want to check it out. And I'm glad we have data link because this episode is visual. It was definitely visual. If I put this up on the audio feed, people wouldn't
see the pictures.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Yeah.
So hopefully people check it out. This is the point where I go and I make sure I have everything lined up for the closing. And I want to thank everybody that joined us in the chat. I want to thank everybody who subscribed to us. Head over to @Portroids, subscribe to Rick. You won't be disappointed. Like I feel like even if it's someone I don't know, one day, the next day it'll be someone completely awesome. And it's a great way to I don't know. You go to a lot of Broadway shows. I do not,
Yeah.
because I live in California. And so it's fun seeing folks pop up that, I'll meet in the future on, projects that make its way over here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thanks to everybody. Thanks to you, Rick. We'll have you back for sure.
Oh.
Hey, if you want to stop by during Andor, we could always use guests, and we could chat about the latest episode of that. That's in 2 weeks. Next week, we were talking about Troops, fan film that I had never seen because it wasn't real Star Wars. And we'll see what I think of it. Yeah, so go for it, Rick. Until next time.
Don't give in to hate.
Celebrate the love.
Punch it.